opportunity to effectively undertake a residency. I think it's for 15 weeks, and they will receive a financial stipend during that time to pay their living costs. It could be that they might be returning home, so if they're a student from Edinburgh, they might go back to Edinburgh, but they might then choose to use studios within ECA as an example, because they've been offered to us. So the students will be provided with that living stipend. They will have their travel costs to wherever it is they might be working paid for, and they will have money for some kind of consumables and materials to kind of reconstruct the work physically. There will also be a small amount of money which will be assigned to some kind of professional support from a kind of professional advisor or some kind of tutoring system too, within their kind of host institution. I think it's something like 25 to 30 hours of time. So that's effectively the package for each student, but each student will be, and the students don't know this detailed in this sense actually, so I'm kind of giving away more than I should perhaps. Let's hope.
You have to find
yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, no, I wonder if they're tuned into the select committee live. But they will be bidding for that, so they'll be making a professional application as if, and we're kind of taking the model from, we're borrowing models from other places like the residency scheme that Creative Scotland operate as kind of models and frameworks for dealing with that. Because these students will be, they're graduates now, and they will be, this is about them in their professional life and providing them with a platform upon which to rebuild that.
You said there was correct me if I'm wrong here, 102 students affected.
102 students who are in that final year cohort.
There are 102 students in the final year cohort.
Yeah.
Is there any breakdown you could give us about how many are impacted by the fire and the extent to the impact? I mean, are there any students of that 102 who are completely unaffected by it, and are there any who have lost absolutely everything?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because when this is obviously something that's been vexing our minds as we've been going through the last 3.5 weeks. There's 102 students in that cohort. Some of the students have lost absolutely everything. Their studios have completely gone, and all their work was got in the studios. And
can you quantify that?
Yeah, that's probably about 35%, I believe. Yeah, who've lost absolutely everything, and that's 4 years' work. That's all of their sketch. So we're getting ready for their degree show. So all of their valuable items were located in that studio space for that one moment. So everything is gone, apart from the digital records they might have. There's another perhaps 20–25% who've got significantly damaged, fire-damaged work. So the work was taken out, and this is where the fire crews took work out out of those spaces, but it's kind of significantly damaged. The other students have got their work is, some of it's kind of water damaged, because even in the East Wing there was a lot of water. Sketchbooks are kind of water damaged. They're being frozen as we speak. The majority, well, the rest of it's smoke damaged, in that it's kind of had a kind of significant smoke penetration. So the key thing about that is some of the work still exists for those damaged students who don't have damaged work, but they've lost their kind of degree show moments, their professional networking moment, and although some of them physically have intact work, it's difficult for them to kind of exhibit that work until it's kind of been through a restoration conservation process. So in answer to your question, there's across that 102 students, there's a kind of bandwidth all the way from 30% with absolutely nothing, a group in the middle who've got significantly damaged, and then the other who've in a sense, their professional networking moment has been damaged, and their work is damaged in that it's kind of very complex and difficult for them to exhibit.
Other members of the question, I'll bring in Neil Bibby in 1 second. I've got one final question, Neil, if you don't mind. Yeah. Specifically, the group who have effectively, it's going to sound terrible, but lost nothing in the physical sense. Their work is intact. But as you say, their moment in the sun, if you like, has been affected. Their networking opportunity has been affected. It could have an impact on their professional career going forward. Yeah. Are they as equally entitled to apply for the bursary support as those who've had work damaged?
Yeah, they'll have the opportunity to apply. The way they frame their application might well be different, because their needs in terms of creating a new platform of work and exhibiting it and so on might be different from those who've lost everything. So, but it is open to all 102. Yeah, I mean, when you actually dig into the nitty-gritty of this, when we were thinking about it, and bearing in mind that we were planning this 24 hours out from the incident, whilst there was lots of other things going on, it became very apparent very early on about how difficult it was actually, in reality, to kind of make the judgment in black and white terms. Oh, you are affected. Oh, you're not. When the totality of the 102 have been inside this building on the Friday afternoon. Yeah.
Neil.
Obviously, I'm not sure about the timings of events, but in terms of the students being awarded the degrees, had the final marks for students been collated prior to the fire, or how had that been done?
No, not for the final, because the final marks, they were just running up to the point where they were closing for the assessment. The assessment process, everything was going to get frozen at 5 o'clock on that Friday afternoon, and that's when all the work was going to be inside the degree show spaces, and then the assessment teams would be going in on the Monday following from the fire. So that critical moment hadn't actually been completed at that particular point on the Friday afternoon.
So, have students been sort of awarded? Some students been awarded in terms of an estimate of their previous work in terms of. We've completely gone through the assessment process, and they've all been awarded their degrees and their marks and their degree classifications, and obviously that was kind of a reasonably complex thing to do, but we were able to do that because obviously, generally speaking, on an individual basis, students quite often have mitigating circumstances. With this particular incident, we had kind of collective mitigating circumstances, and when we're dealing with an individual student with mitigating circumstances, we very systematically go through the nature of those circumstances. We very systematically go through all of our assessment records running up to that point of mitigation, if you like, and we can make a judgment. And in this particular incident, we've just had to we've had to kind of explore that in a great deal of detail for a large cohort of students. But actually, we feel very, very confident about the judgments that have been made, and that's largely down to the kind of frameworks within which assessments take place. The kind of percentage of students affected, is there a percentage that you were able to fully kind of mark along the kind of the work that had been done, and a percentage that you had to rely on an estimate? Or?
Well, actually, if we get right down to the nitty-gritty of this, when we're normally doing that assessment, our assessment teams walk around the degree show spaces and they're assessing a collective body of work in a kind of exhibition format. We weren't able to do that for any of the 102 students because all of that work was set up in the studios of the Macintosh building. The Macintosh building usually has first year, second year, third year, fourth year students in it during the academic year, but this particular point when the fire struck, it had been first, second and third year work was not in the building. It had been totally given over to all of the final year students in fine art who were setting it up as a big exhibition space. So none of the students were able to benefit from that final phase in the assessment. So there had to be mitigation for all of students at that kind of final moment. But as I say, we've got very, very robust assessment records and systems and structures in place for dealing with mitigation.
We've talked about the support from the Scottish Government and the UK Government. In terms of the role of the City Council, I think they've kind of offered assistance in terms of areas for graduations, etc. Yeah. Would you like to comment on the role of the City Council?
Fantastic support from Glasgow City Council right from the very, very beginning, particularly from George and Gordon and City Council. Gordon Matheson was there on the Saturday. Within 24 hours, we had to phone Gordon up and say we really need help, and it's not help in the next hour; it's help in the next 10 minutes. And so he gave us access to the McClellan Galleries, which has been absolutely instrumental in terms of the recovery effort, both for the student work and the exhibitions, but actually it's been critical in terms of the work we've been doing with Historic Scotland in terms of bringing valuable items out of the building. So that's been hugely helpful to us, and the support from the City Council has been ongoing as we've been looking for potential places to take the students in September as points of decant. So extremely helpful from that point of view as well. So and there's many other people within the City of Glasgow that have been extremely helpful and supportive. The other universities, other institutions, again, likewise on the Saturday morning were there, very, very helpful. Security teams from Strathclyde University, Glasgow